Olá, bom dia, and welcome to the Portugal Resident News Review for this Friday, the 10th of July, 2026, with me, Carl Munson, and here to look at the news. And an interesting image to start with, Natasha Dawn. How are you, Natasha?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Right.
Well,
Now,
I told you I'm very sad, but I'm not going to go into that.
right.
It's just,
Okay. May I say that it is a pet-related sadness,
a
and
pet-related
yes,
sadness.
yeah. Well, sending lots of love to you on that front, and meanwhile, very busy. So much going on at the moment, including this image here. I take it you don't fancy a 2-week, as busy as you are, and as sad as you've been in the last couple of days. You don't fancy a 2-week break here.
I mean, to be honest, the way this story was presented, it was in Negócios, Jornal de Negócios. I just presumed the reporter had just recently come out of a coma, because he doesn't no, but he didn't ask any questions. He just said this is a new resort that's being built by the Chinese in the Alentejo. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, my God, because the Alentejo is known for its rural charm, its beautiful countryside. I mean, look at this monstrosity. And I just presumed, and I did say it in the article, I presume this is a resort for the poor staff that it will have working in its battery plant in Sines.
Right. Okay.
Presumably they're going to be bringing over lots of Chinese, because this is where Chinese people might be very happy, or they may not even know the meaning of happiness. But I mean, if you look at it carefully, and I looked at it, I thought first of all, it looks like a correctional center.
It does look like a correctional facility, indeed.
And then I was thinking, but this is meant to be a tourist resort. Where's the pool? Oh,
yes.
There's no pool. It looks like there might be 3 tennis courts, doesn't it?
It does. Paddle. If they're cutting edge developers, there'll be paddle.
If it's paddle, I can't see the walls or anything around it. But maybe you wouldn't see them because they're glass.
Yes.
But anyway,
maybe it's the exercise. Maybe it's the exercise yard
without shade. Where's the shade for the paddle courts? Because you do need shade if you're playing outside.
Okay. Well, I take it you're not a fan, and we'll leave that hanging there. Would you like to spend 2 weeks here? 52 million euro tourism project awarded to a Portuguese construction group.
I mean, what would be better?
Chinese organization.
What would be better, considering the housing crisis, is to build something as ghastly as that, to take all the poor people that don't have a home and can't afford one. Because at least then they'd have something over their heads. But I can't imagine anyone.
There's no need for ugly buildings, is there? But I guess that is quite subjective and a matter of taste. Let us know what you think about that, please, in the chat. Would you want to spend 2 weeks there, let alone live in it as social housing? Thanks for kicking things off, Natasha, with that interesting image. We go first, of course, to Bonnie Tyler, who sadly passed away. She lived in Portugal, of course, and as I'm hearing all the tributes coming in on the mainstream media in the UK, she was a massive star, wasn't she, and chose Portugal as her home.
Well, she divided her time between Portugal and I think somewhere in Wales. But yes, she loved Portugal. She adored Albufeira, which is where apparently she lived. She was adored in Albufeira. She had endless, obviously, relationships with people locally. And then she had, all the people who were in showbiz. But the thing that I think is coming through, apart from the fact that she just was like the best. She had this fantastic voice.
Oh, yeah.
And I was looking at some of the tributes yesterday, and somebody had described her and she liked it. Oh, no, it was Susie Quattro who said it.
Oh, wow.
It explained her down to a T, or described her down to a T, was that she was basically the female equivalent of Rod Stewart.
Yes. And
Rod was quick to praise her as well. Yesterday, Rod Stewart was doing some sort of special performance up in Gleneagles, and he got the news that Bonnie had died, and he did this sort of impromptu rendition of
which one? Total Eclipse of the Heart
songs. I mean, it's just the tributes that are coming in are really lovely to read, because she obviously touched so many people, and she was such a honest, down-to-earth woman.
Absolutely. Down to earth is the phrase that keeps coming up in the coverage I've heard. And yes, as you say, well loved locally in Albufeira, which she loved and made a home there. She was familiar with Portugal, as celebrities seem to have been for about 5 decades, I believe. Cliff
Yeah,
Richard
yeah,
takes
and
note
I
of
mean,
that.
she would have been great mates with Cliff Richard, who also loves
Yes.
Portugal and had a fantastic house here for some time, also in Albufeira. And remember, the Beatles loved Albufeira. And in the early days, we're not talking about it now.
Yes.
And but the saddest thing of all was the reason why she had to have this emergency surgery.
Yes, yes. But did she have was it a burst appendix that she had to go
She
into
had
hospital and an induced
what
coma?
must have been the beginnings of all this in England. And she
Right.
went to a hospital, or certainly specialists in England, and they said there was nothing to see here.
All
And
right.
had they been a little bit more thorough, she would never have gone to Portugal with this problem, which she continued to suffer for a few days before it became critical. And then she had to have all this life-saving interventions.
Yes, and she'd been in hospital for a couple of months, I believe, here in Portugal before
Yeah.
passing away
Yeah,
in the last
it's just
48 hours.
absolutely the whole thing. And some of that time in a coma, the whole thing was absolutely, and must have been an unbelievable nightmare for her.
For sure,
Her
yeah, for friends and family.
closest, yeah,
Yes, here are some celeb tributes to her. I mean, in the town that she came from in Wales, people are completely heartbroken and spoke very highly of her there, of calling her down to earth, as everybody seems to be, and loving her. And I think you're absolutely right. She split her time between being in her home in Wales. She saw herself very much as a Welsh woman.
and she was
as
a
well as being-
consummate performer. I mean, she was
Oh, how
always on the road. She was
true.
always gigging. She was.
Yes.
I mean, some of the things I saw last night, I was just looking on social media, because it was just full, and you could see she'd been. I think the last gig she was doing, or she was certainly doing something in Ireland in February.
Yes, amazing.
And I think she must have been doing something in London in March, which is March or April, when she got sick, when she first got the signs that something was wrong.
Here are some celebrity tributes. Catherine Zeta-Jones, a fellow Welsh woman.
Well, Catherine
related.
Zeta-Jones, it was amazing. I had no idea about this. But
Well, they're
Catherine
related by
Zeta-Jones
marriage.
is the cousin of Bonnie Tyler's husband.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Isn't that
Tyler was
amazing?
married to Zeta-Jones's cousin, posted an emotional Instagram tribute. This is Catherine Zeta-Jones recalling that Tyler sang and rocked it at her wedding to Michael Douglas in 2000. Wow. They don't make them like this anymore, do they? This just showbiz through and through, despite being very down to earth and pleasant, as people are saying, calling her an extraordinary woman with vocals to match. How amazing. Rod Stewart, fellow gravelly voiced rocker, Rod Stewart, longtime friend and 2019 album collaborator, called her a soul stirrer. I think Total Eclipse of the Heart is one of the greatest songs ever written. The lyrics are amazing and she sings it brilliantly. And Rod also said it's a heartache. He sang that every night on tour. I'll miss you, darling Bonnie. He also performed the song live in tribute during a recent show. How about that? Kevin Bacon, riffing on Holding Out for a Hero from Footloose, called Tyler one of the great voices of rock. Johnny Knoxville from Jackass, thanking her recently for letting Holding Out for a Hero be on the Jackass soundtrack. Bryan Adams, David Guetta, Jamie Lee Curtis, Cliff Richard, Boney M's, Liz Mitchell, all paying tribute. And even the Prince and Princess of Wales issuing a statement calling her a proud Welsh icon whose extraordinary voice and unforgettable music touched millions. What an amazing legacy, and how sad that Bonnie Tyler has passed away here in Portugal after that illness. Well, Squire of the Shires is with us. Bon dia. Bem Possosh, good morning to you as well. RIP to Bonnie. I think it's come out as Blondie there. That is not a sudden news flash. That's a typo. Or Bonnie is being referred to as the Welsh Blondie there. Original.
Maybe it's his predictive text, because I'm always sending the most ridiculous messages.
Are you? I'd like to hear about those on another occasion.
No, because, sometimes you're out walking and you haven't got your glasses on, so you send what you think is a perfectly sensible text, and it comes out a total jargon.
And somebody replying, I have never been so offended in all my life. We are finished. Right. Okay. Natasha, moving on now. Yes, rest in peace, Bonnie, and thank you for the music. The Venezuelan twin earthquake disaster that we have spoken about has a resonance, as it were, here in Portugal. You've written about seismic experts urging PM and president to act ahead of inevitable catastrophe. Now, this rumble, pardon the choice of words here, but this rumbles on in the background, doesn't it, as a possibility here in Portugal. And are these people being over dramatic, or do you think there's something in this?
I don't think they're being over dramatic. I mean, if you think about it, we've every time there's an earthquake anywhere, to be honest, people say, what would it be like if it happened in Portugal? Because of course, you know, the last big earthquake, I think a big one that people remember was, I think, in 1963. And I know that the father of my two boys remembers being pulled out of his bed as he saw the walls and the ceiling part company.
No, okay.
Yeah, that was in the Algarve in 1963. But I mean, the house didn't fall down, but obviously afterwards it was a bit of a performance trying to work out what to do with the roof that now had a huge space in it. But yeah, there's always this possibility. We're on, you know, various fault lines, and of course, like if you see, I think we talked about this on another podcast. Whenever you see these earthquakes in the Açores, if you look along on the IPMA site and you look along the line, you always see that it can connect to Portugal. Because it's kind of, and then there is usually a little rumble somewhere in the Alentejo or a rumble somewhere else. So one of these days we will get a mega quake like we did in 1755. And these experts are saying we aren't really fully prepared. We've got a lot of public infrastructure like hospitals, schools that need reinforcement. Of course, it's never going to happen. We don't have any money. And when we do have money, they just give it to mega corporations to build horrendous tourist resorts. I don't know. But whatever it is, of course, it will never happen. But at least these people are on record for when things start tumbling down. And we told you so.
Yes, and when you say it'll never happen, as in the preparations they're seeking,
the preparations will never happen because
interesting.
People never do those kind of things because they're invisible. You see,
yes.
I remember when Lisbon was always flooding in the winter whenever there was, you know, more than a spot of rain, and they've done this amazing underground tunneling. Yeah, but I remember the mayor Moedas saying the reason this hasn't been done in the past, in spite of countless floods, is because it's invisible work. Nobody sees anything because it's all being done underground.
Right.
And politicians always want to be patted on the back and told how marvelous they are, which is why they're always laying the first stone of every single project they say is going to go forward. The Algarve Central Hospital has had 8 initial, whatever they call it, the first stones laid.
Yes, right.
It's still nowhere to be seen, of course, but it's got 8 stones. Do you see what I mean?
Okay. Yes, and as Luis,
and it's had lots of photo opportunities and lots of idiotic, you know, screeds of text saying absolutely nothing.
Was it Camoys who said it takes more than 8 stones to build a hospital? Anyway, this is very interesting, and I'm fascinated these days by the use of the word scientist. You know, scientist this and scientist that. Here, they are warning Portugal risks a repeat of the Venezuelan tragedy, and anyone who's seen those images will not be wanting that to happen here. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about, does it? 7 of Portugal's leading earthquake engineering and earth sciences experts have issued an urgent appeal to the president, Tojo, Antonio José Seguro, and Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, warning that a major earthquake in Portugal could become an inevitable national catastrophe unless immediate action is not taken to strengthen vulnerable buildings and critical infrastructure. As you say, that will cost a lot of money, and there's not a lot of glory in that for politicians, is there? It finishes. The signatories insist they are not seeking to create alarm, and neither are we here, by the way, but to promote prevention. We do not advocate alarmism, we advocate preparedness, they write. We are not seeking to assign blame for the past, rather we wish to avoid future responsibility while there is still time. And typically, many Portuguese academics have this sort of poetic turn of phrase, do they not? The final phrase here being, when the ground shakes again, it will already be too late for us to be heard. A poetic sign-off at the end of their report there.
Yeah. Well, if what the sentence I like was, if the democratically elected political authorities are the last to act, catastrophe is inevitable. And of course, it means catastrophe is inevitable because the democratically elected political authorities will be the last to act. And we've just got to be accepting it. And maybe we can all do our own. I mean, obviously not if we live in an apartment block.
Yes.
We've just all got to be aware of, what might happen, and hopefully
on a personal level,
something really heavy over the bed, for instance.
Well, here we have, yes, indeed, a bowling ball or something from one of the American comedy films. Mike, the firefighter and paramedic who recorded an excellent wildfire season alert with me just recently, is here with a bon dia. And this might be a useful topic to cover for us in the future, the preparedness. Because if you feel like you're not necessarily being well supported in terms of preparation by the government, you have to make your own efforts, don't you, as people are doing with the wildfires. What sort of messaging have you seen? There has been this sort of 72-hour thing into which the earthquake disaster would fit, right, Natasha? To have enough supplies for a 72-hour
yeah, well, I mean, I do, but that's because I've got enough cat food, dog food, and water. And my feeling is, I've got loads of tins, I suppose. My feeling is you can live up for 72 hours on water and bits and pieces that you got in the fridge. You don't need to have slap-up meals all the way through the crisis.
No, but you've painted a very grim picture for me there. You eating cat and dog food and drinking water.
No, I wouldn't eat cat and dog food. I've got some tins. And I do actually replenish. I've got masses of water. I always buy masses of water and hide it in funny little crannies. And I buy things like evaporated milk in case, obviously, we can't buy milk. I could put that into my cups of tea. I mean, obviously, we might not have all sorts of things, but I've got gas. You see, I'm not one of these people that survives on electricity. So I've got gas. So, I think I'd probably be all right.
Right. And if you do live in somewhere like Cascais, you may see tsunami signs as well, telling you which way to run. There has been some level of preparation and signage in some parts of Portugal, but these scientists calling for more. Read about this and more headlines, of course, many, many more headlines. The output of the Portugal Resident has doubled, I think, in terms of news coverage just recently at portugalresident.com. Now, Natasha, finally then, what's this all about? I'm quite suspicious about this story. Burqa ban approved by parliamentary committee.
To me, it didn't really make any sense because I've never seen anyone around here in a burqa. And if they were in a burqa, I just worry how they would keep walking because there's so many obstacles, loose paving stones. They'd just be all over the place with their legs in the air and their burqa on the floor. But obviously, it may be relevant. This was initially suggested by Chega. So it may be relevant in the inner city, Lisbon, where, after all, certain neighborhoods of Lisbon have been transformed into like ghettos. I mean, the man in my life was born in a part of Lisbon that is now completely and utterly overrun with people from India, Bangladesh, whatever. And he went back there quite recently just to have a look. Just to have a look, because he grew up there and he used to play, football around the water tap, and it was really. He was just amazed. He said, I could never have imagined.
But isn't this one of those dangerous extrapolations, like a sort of tokenism of having a genuine concern about how culture is changing, and then pushing back with a sort of token gesture like this, as you say, of banning the burqa?
The great thing about this ban, originally it was suggested by Chega, and obviously Chega was doing it from the point of view of we just don't need these kind of cultures invading our everyday life. But then it was supported by other parties who said, actually, from the point of view of security, it is really good to be able to see who you're walking towards. Yes. Because this person in the burqa could be anyone. They could have an Uzi under their robes, or a pistol given by the president of Turkey. We just don't know what they'd be carrying.
For example.
Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
it's given a pistol by the president.
The NATO conference, everybody went away with a pistol
Right.
or a revolver with I think a personalized revolver and a little pack of 6 bullets.
What, being
And
urged to do the right thing?
Erdogan. I mean, it's an odd
Well,
thing to give after the summit of an alliance that is
national
just
security.
defensive. You're not meant to be carrying a gun.
These times we're living in are
I
bizarre.
know, everything's gone
I
bananas.
think the burqa ban is very much a sort of token gesture.
No, but what I thought was really interesting about this burqa ban, because obviously I've never seen anyone in a burqa around here.
Yes, right.
What I thought was really interesting was the comments on when we did the story, the comments underneath it was saying things like, oh God, let's hope England has the balls to do this. Let's hope Ireland does this. Da, 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 da. So obviously other countries haven't had the balls to do this, haven't had the intelligence to say, listen, this isn't just about culture, it's also about security. We need to know who these people are. We can't have people wandering around as darling old what was that chap called? Boris Johnson.
Boris
said,
Johnson,
walking around like old letterboxes. We just can't have them wandering around because we don't know what's inside the letterbox.
If you could, sorry about this sort of whataboutism, but if this, what is this really about? I think some of this
is about knowing who's walking down the street. You do not want somebody.
Fair enough, and that's a reasonable case, isn't it, for legislation? But I think there's more to it than that. And
well, I mean, obviously, Shega didn't want them walking down the street. Full stop.
Right. Yes.
But the fact that they're walking down the street in a burqa, celebrating their own religion and culture, and possibly not even speaking Portuguese, was just too much for that.
Well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And this gesture seems to be a bit of a sort of pushback or revenge on that. But under another part of this is what the domination of women, presumably, and a sort of a cultural value that might not be appreciated.
That's another point, that no woman can be happy about being dressed up like this. But then again, somebody did come on the Portuguese press some time ago, extraordinarily saying that women wanted to wear these things. She wasn't wearing one, obviously.
Yes, right. And of course, that's a little bit of an awkward difficulty, isn't it? If you are proposing a free speech and free behavior, you can't stop somebody wanting to do that.
Yeah, but you can stop people being covered up on the basis of security. You can.
Fair enough. I take that point completely. And the other point, why I mentioned whataboutism is, if this is really about women's freedom of self-expression and domination of women, there is a social issue of domestic violence, of course, isn't there, in Portugal, that needs to be dealt with as well.
There's a terrible issue of domestic violence. It's not, and it isn't exclusive to Portuguese. We've had some horrible domestic violence cases involving foreigners. Yes,
well, and I think that's the bigger issue here. If people are truly saying this is an affront to women's freedom and women's safety, there are far bigger issues to address than this sort of tokenistic ban. But I totally take your point on security from that point of view. It could be a fella with a Turkish revolver underneath.
Absolutely. It could be somebody who's escaped from prison, because they, like in England, they're escaping from prison relatively, regularly.
And in the same way, yes, people are asked to remove their motorcycling helmets and balaclavas and so on, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah, because the burqa ban also covers balaclavas.
Quite.
It's not called a balaclava ban.
No.
Because obviously burqa ban is more newsy.
Of course it is, and more controversial.
Yeah.
Natasha, thank you so much for your news headlines that you've been writing, among many others this week. And just one more look at this Chinese
wonderful tourist centre. It's being built, by the way, by a Portuguese company, so we should all be delighted about that, I suppose.
Yes.
But it really is a site for you. It's just another thing of this mad world that we're all in.
Yes.
How anyone could even contemplate something that looks like this is beyond.
Well, maybe it'll be sold to a prison company at some point later on in its life.
And then there might be a really crack prison team at paddle, which would be super.
the best prison paddle team in the whole world.
Somebody said they're niqabs, not burqas, but no, they're not, because I did check it all.
Well, he's not aware, Adrian, of any bombings or other attacks being perpetrated by women wearing niqabs. Fascist distraction from need for wealth taxes to make super rich pay their share, says Adrian. And Stefan Burns is a good geophysicist on YouTube. He studies the El Nino this year and other weather phenomena in general. Thank you for that tip there. Yes, Stephen Burns, I've had a look at his YouTube channel. If seismic
we might talk about the weather next time, because there's another, the WHO,
right.
They recently said that Europe is in for another massive heat wave, but that we're not going to get the worst of it because of the Atlantic. But I was watching something on, I think it was on the Portuguese news last night, showing what this is all about. It's all about the water the glaciers that are melting in Iceland.
Right.
The cold water's being pushed down into the English Channel, probably, or wherever, and then it's meeting warmer water, and it's causing the Gulf Stream to kind of change its direction and go right. All this warm air goes right over Europe.
Right.
And that's why we've had, because I got a message from my mum yesterday, and she said she could feel the parting in her hair burning from the sun yesterday in England, which is extraordinary.
Yes, it is. Yes, my mother too, complaining of the heat. Not that she's not a fan of the heat, but too much over there in the UK currently. Bon dia on the Burkerband. Check out France looking at entryism. Not sure what that is. Coming into a culture with the intent to shift or change it.
Look at entryism.
You might also call that progress. I don't know. We'll talk about this more next week, possibly with Chris Graham from Essential Business, who'll be joining us. So have a great weekend. Thank you, Natasha.
You too. Have a great week.
Bye for now. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.